guys, and welcome back to Dark Matter Podcast. I'm Dominique.
And I'm Avalon. All right, so today we're going to talk about pretty much my favorite topic, which are MLM companies. So if you've ever received like a DM or message from like a boss babe who wanted to share like a business opportunity, it was probably working at an MLM. So first we're going to get into like what MLMs even are, because I think a lot of people have heard of it, but they don't really know like what it is or what it stands for or anything.
Right. So MLM stands for multi-level marketing, and they're companies who basically sell their products through person-to-person sales. And this usually involves selling products to family and friends, as well as recruiting others to do the same. And you may not have heard of MLM or network marketing companies, but perhaps you've heard of pyramid schemes. So let's get into the differences first of all. So first, pyramid schemes are 100% illegal in the US, while MLMs are legal. And according to consumer.sd.gov, the difference between a pyramid scheme and a lawful MLM program is that there is no real product that is sold in a pyramid scheme, and participants attempt to make money solely by recruiting new participants into the program. So obviously the difference between MLMs is that they do have products, while pyramid schemes don't even have that. However, the products are often just not useful for most people, as well as being incredibly poor quality, or they don't live up to the claims that's made about them, which in turn leaves distributors with mass amounts of essentially unsellable product.
Yeah, and in my opinion, that's basically the same thing as having no product at all, because it's like if you're buying like a bunch of these products to sell and then you literally can't sell them either because they're just useless, like nobody wants it, or because it's shitty quality, or because you just have too many of them, or whatever it might be. It's like you might as well have just not bought a product at all.
Right.
So in my opinion, it's like pretty much the same thing. But the reason, like you said, like they're able to like kind of evade like the legal side of it and getting in legal trouble because there is technically a product. So it comes down to like, well, it's your fault because you can't sell it. It's like, but it's not their fault. They're either horrible products or, like we said, there's like all these different issues. So obviously the line between pyramid scheme and MLM can get blurred. Like it can be hard to tell one from another. But in general, it's just like, it's not good to get involved in MLM.
Right,
You're
yeah.
probably going to lose money. And so we're going to go into why it's not good. So obviously it's not good to evade the law. Like that's just like one thing that's bad in general. But there's like a whole anti-MLM community. If you weren't like familiar with it, like on YouTube and on Instagram, like they have whole accounts just like talking about how bad MLMs are and just kind of like shitting on MLMs. And like there's a reason for that. It's not just because they evade the law. It's because they have really shady tactics. So obviously sometimes like what they do is illegal, but more than that, they're very harmful to their distributors, who are overwhelmingly women, almost all women. And it's funny because they talk about building up women and being an independent woman and like just like these like feminist like mantras that really mean nothing, because at the end of the day, they're bringing down women. They're making women bankrupt. They're taking women away from their family and their loved ones. And so it's just, they do exactly the opposite of what they're saying that they're going to do.
Right, and I feel like they do appeal mostly to women, though, because there's a lot of single moms out there, or stay-at-home moms who maybe want to make a little extra more money, try to take care of their kids. And so, of course, they find this appealing because they're all like, I can control my own schedule, I can work from home, and so they feel like it's a good idea to get into it, but they don't realize the hidden consequences or the hidden things that they have to watch out for.
Exactly. They haven't, like a lot of people haven't come across like the anti-MLM community. That's kind of a niche, that's something I watch a lot, but not everybody knows about that. And if you didn't, like there wouldn't be any reason to think otherwise,
Right.
And you're also encouraged not to do your own research when you work at an MLM. So that doesn't help. Like you're encouraged to just like listen to what they say. And
oh, really?
yeah,
I did not know
they
that.
specifically say that like everyone who like has, any information against them is just like a hater. That's the idea that's put out. It's like, oh, you have like dissent, there's like dissent, like they're just haters. But it's like they're bringing up valid points. Like what we're talking about right now, like these are valid points. But they would just say we're like haters and we just like don't get it. We're not boss babes. It's like, okay,
right, yeah.
Yeah, I guess we're not boss.
I'm okay
But
with that.
yeah, I'm fine with that. But the first and foremost, like the most important thing that you need to consider about MLMs is that, I can't stress this enough, roughly 80% of people involved in an MLM lose money. Like what other job would you not only not be promised money, but it's more likely than not, almost like guaranteed, that you're going to lose money.
Right.
Like I've heard people make this comparison before of like, imagine going to Starbucks. First of all, you have to like you have to buy a bunch of product to get started too.
Mm-hmm.
So like sometimes hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of product. So imagine you get a job at Starbucks and you pay $500 to start working there, and then you don't make money for a year. You're like not making money as you work
Right.
there.
So
Like
obviously you wouldn't want to work there
you
because you're
would
not getting
quit.
profit.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the whole point of a job is like, I mean, there's many things you can get from a job, but at the end of the day, a job gives you money.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like any job, and they always shit on like 9 to 5. Like you'll hear these MLM people saying like, oh, you don't want to work a 9 to 5 job. Like it's just like, I don't even know what they say about it, but it's like,
I
it's
think
so
it's like
bad.
be control of your own
Yeah,
schedule
exactly.
type of
Yeah,
stuff
control
like that,
your
yeah.
own life, control your own schedule. It's like, okay, well, a 9 to 5 job will guaranteed give you money. Even if
Mhm.
it's not a lot of money, you'll make money. Like I promise you, you'll make money. But in an MLM, it's not guaranteed, and I just don't understand why you would take that risk. And like they're not told that obviously when people are starting out. It's like, yeah, it might be hard at first, but you just have to work really hard, and then you can be like me and make 6 figures.
Mhm.
And there are people who make 6 figures, but we'll kind of get into that more later. That it's pretty much impossible to do that anymore.
Right.
And there's very few who have made that much money. Like it's the like 1% of 1% or something stupid like that. Like
Yeah.
nobody makes that much money, except for very few. And another thing that's very harmful about them, as we said, they target women, stay-at-home moms, and also military wives, which really pisses me off because, like my aunt, my uncle served; he was a Marine, and so my aunt was a military wife, and so it was very hard for her. You know, it's very hard to be especially as a
Yeah.
mom, to be not only a wife but a mom, and to be like without your husband for long periods of time. It's like really scary, and there's a lot going on.
Mhm.
And the fact that they target those women is so wrong. It makes me
Right.
so mad because I'm like, dude, it's so hard to go through that. And then you're preying on their vulnerability, and you're preying
Mhm.
on like, they want something to do, like they want to get their mind off of things, they want to have like
Right.
independence, and you're preying on that and then depleting them of their resources. Like that
Exactly,
is
yeah.
so like shady and just like beyond wrong.
Yeah, like they know the type of people they should be appealing to, and that's the people they target, which obviously is wrong. Like if it's a
Yeah.
legitimate business, they wouldn't have to go out and look for a specific type of person in a specific type of situation. It would be appealing to everyone.
Yeah, like
'Cause it's a
everybody would
job.
want their product. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and there's also like with that, there's a lot of like pressure and bullying from the upline. So there's like the upline and downline. So like I was saying earlier, like if I recruited Dom, I would be the upline, you would be the downline.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times the uplines can be like bullies, like really like put a lot of pressure on these women. There's men involved too, but like mostly women.
Mhm.
They put so much pressure on their downlines, and it's just a toxic environment. From people who have left, like they'll say that it was just toxic environment. Like they feel like every second of the day they have to be working, and if they're not, then they're being lazy, and like that's
Right.
another thing that like, sure, 9 to 5 is a long time, like that's a lot, like 9 to 5 5 days a week, like yeah, that's a lot of working. But when you're in an MLM, it's basically the second you wake up to the second you go to bed. That's more time. Like I don't understand why people don't see that like that's your whole life. It becomes your whole life. Like you're doing it all the time, because it's as easy nowadays with technology. It's as easy as like going on Instagram or going on your laptop or whatever it might be. So you can be doing it all the time, and you're made to feel guilty if you're not doing it all the time. And you have
Right.
to constantly be making more sales. You have to constantly be recruiting people, and it's just not sustainable. Like you can't live that way.
Yeah, and I feel like at first like I said, the appeal is being able to make your own schedule and be your own boss. And at first it seems that way because again, you are the one controlling who you sell to, like who you market to and stuff like that. But again, there is that pressure from the higher ups to keep continuing to sell and to continue to recruit, obviously.
Yeah. And okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is like the biggest, I would say the biggest issue with like, as far as like, I guess the financial aspect of MLMs is oversaturation. So like I mentioned this earlier. So like back in the day, like the first MLM was like over 100 years ago. So like back in the day, like
Oh God, I didn't know it was that old.
Yeah, Amway. People call it Scamway because it was a scam. But yeah, it was like a long time ago. Was it over? I think it was over 100, but it was in the last 20th century. Yeah, 20th century.
Like yeah, like a while ago.
It was a while ago. Yeah, but like back in the day, like maybe not then, but like I feel like the golden age was probably like the 90s or something. Like a while ago, it was easier to make a living off of it because there weren't as many people involved in MLMs. But at this point in time, because there's so many people in MLMs, and like just like I don't even know how to explain. There's people who explain it better, but the way it's like because it's oversaturated, it's pretty much impossible to make it to the top, to like the 6-figure earners. And the reason, okay, well, kind of the reason behind it is that like, so you have to recruit people. Obviously you have to recruit people to get to the top. Like you can sell lots of product, but like the way you actually move up in the company is by recruiting people.
Yeah, so that's where you make your actual profit from, or most
Yeah.
of your profit anyway.
Yeah, that's where you actually make money, and that's how you make like get higher in the company. And like obviously to recruit people, there has to be people.
Yeah.
But if there's already all these people in the company, there's no one else to recruit. Yeah, but basically my point there is just that like it's pretty much impossible to make it to the top at this point, because there's just not enough people. Like if you look at it just like from a statistical standpoint, just from a mathematical standpoint, there's literally just not enough people left to make it to the top.
Right.
And another aspect of it is that it's pretty much like a cult. Like a lot of them, we'll get into some of them that are actually cults, like certifiably cults.
Yeah.
Not all of them are like that though, but they all have kind of like a cult mindset, because a lot of people end up losing their loved ones and family and people in their life that are concerned about them, because like I said earlier, everything that's like a dissenting opinion is hate to them.
Right.
So it's like, oh, your sister, like there's like a famous there's a speaker named Rachel Hollis who speaks at a lot of MLM like conferences. They have these like really culty, like weird conferences, and she speaks at a lot of them. And there's a famous one like where she's speaking to this woman in the crowd, and she's saying like, oh, the woman said like, oh, my sister, you know, doesn't want me to be here, and like doesn't want me to be a part of this company. And she's like, does your sister love you? Like clearly she doesn't. You know what I mean? She's like telling her like, she's like, you can just cut her out of your life, or you can do this or that, like trying to like, she didn't like tell her specifically you have to cut her out of your life, but she's like, what are we going to do about it? And she posed that as an option, like you can cut her out.
I mean, that's kind of like emotional manipulation. You're basically saying like, if people are expressing concern for your situation, instead of, you know, telling them like, oh, it's okay, they're trying to say like, no, they're obviously wrong, they're trying to like, I don't know, sabotage you or go against you, so you need to like cut them out of your life or don't listen to them, which is obviously a huge like red flag to me. If someone is telling you to like cut people out of your lives, that's something that you should definitely be wary of, because that's how you isolate yourself, and it keeps you in that group even more, because it's like, oh, these are the only people who understand what I feel or what I'm going through, so of course I'm gonna stick with them, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly like the tactic they use, is like make it so that you don't have any people who like don't agree with MLMs, and like basically your family and friends who are like, that's not a good idea. You don't have them in your life anymore, and the only people you're left with are people who are in the MLM.
Right.
So of course they're only going to say good things about it, and like it gets really bad. Like people will like even on these Facebook groups, like I've heard that people will like say things like, hey, like my products came in faulty or whatever, and their comments are just deleted by their upline. Oh, wow. They're just like, they will stifle all opposition. They'll stifle anyone who has anything to say about it. And it's just like, think about it again, like thinking about it in comparison to a normal job, because it's supposed to be an alternative to a normal job.
Right, like the better option.
Yeah, it's like if you were working, again, at like, let's say Starbucks. If you're working at Starbucks and your family was like worried for some reason, you would probably be like, well, why? You know what I mean? And if maybe your boss, like let's say it was something with your boss, it would be like, well, the boss would want to know like why. You know what I mean?
Like, why are you concerned?
Yeah, it wouldn't be like, whoa, screw them, they hate you and they hate us, and you need to just forget them and only come here all the time. You know what I mean? Like that's not how a job works. Like that's just so crazy. I mean, like your job should not be your whole life. I mean, like some people say like they love their job and it's like their life, but at the same time, like your career is not your life. Like I think in America in general, we kind of conflate the two, where it's like, oh
yeah, definitely.
Like even you'll say like, what do you do? It's like that's like we're talking about your career. Like it's
right,
like
that's
who
a huge part of
it's
your
like your whole life. Yeah, and like I think there really needs to be a division between your work and your life. And with MLMs, this is like the furthest from that. It's like absolutely your work is your life, and there's
like they
no
infiltrate your life completely. I would say like I know some people who I follow on social media who have gotten into MLMs, and every single one of their posts is to advertise this product in some way, or kind of, it's one of those posts that lift women up, or like, how did I get here? This is what I did. You have to like work and stuff like that, which at first like the messages do seem very uplifting. Like we mentioned, you know, like they're encouraging you to be your own boss and to take charge or whatever, but at the end of the day, there's still something in there that mentions like that product, or mentions how she got that job, which is again meant to entice people to be like, oh, what's this? Like maybe I can do this too. Yeah,
exactly. It's always like, I know what you mean. Like there's never just a post about like just like their life, or like just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's even if they do mention something about their life, it somehow
Like the
in
two are
turn
combined.
relates it,
Yeah.
back to the product, back to like joining the company. And it's like, it just becomes so fake. It's like, who even are you as a person that like
Right, yeah.
you can't even open up about things unless it's about your product? Like, I don't know. Like, I imagine these people going to therapy and like talk about their life and then like pitching their product to the therapist. You know what I mean? It's like,
But
dude.
anyway, have you heard of this?
Yeah, no, literally. I'm like, oh my God, like, it's just crazy. It just
Yeah.
becomes like I said, it just becomes your whole life, which is obviously not healthy.
No, not at all.
And one channel I wanted to recommend, she's here on YouTube. So she was a former top earning MLM rep. So she was making six figures in an MLM. Like we said, like, that's like pretty much impossible, but she was one of the few that did it. And she's now an anti-MLM content creator, which is very rare. It's really cool. And so her name, like the YouTube name is Not the Good Girl. That's like what she goes by on YouTube. And she really like has exposed what it's like to be at the top of these companies, because it's not what you would think, you know, like people make it seem like it's this luxurious lifestyle.
Right.
And she showed that it's very mentally draining. It's horrible. And like, as soon as she started making or kind of feeling like she wasn't sure about it and she was like, maybe like didn't want to do it anymore, things went bad really quick. So like, I definitely recommend her channel, because obviously if she was making six figures in the MLM and she chose to leave, like that says something, you know what I mean? Because most people aren't making anywhere near that.
Exactly. And if you're making that amount of money, I would think the incentive to stay is even greater than for those who were more at the bottom. But it basically got so bad for her that despite the fact that she was making this huge amount of money, she decided to leave.
Yeah, because it was so horrible for her mental health. And she did talk about like losing herself, kind of, you know what I mean? She got like emotional in some of the videos because she was in MLMs for like over 5 years. I think like 6+ years, for a while.
Right.
And so it was her life, you know, and like you really do lose yourself. It's really sad. And so like, yeah, definitely look at her channel, because she gives like, and she'll like interview people who were in MLMs, and like she does a lot of great stuff. So I would really recommend that, because I think she gives like, I think her opinion to me is the most valuable when it comes to MLMs, because like we said,
yeah,
she was making so much money. She wasn't just a random person who was making like a little bit of money. Like she was making a lot of money through these companies, and she was able to see, like she says, like behind the curtain and see like what they really are, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like another thing I wanted to mention was, it's like kind of going along with that like at the top it seems so glamorous, but it's really not. Like a good example of that is Arbonne. I think it's Arbonne. Arbonne, yeah. It's a company it's an MLM company that basically sells like health products, wellness, health and wellness, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah.
And they have this thing where they say like they give you a Mercedes if you get to the top. Like when you make a certain amount, like then you get a Mercedes. Like it's so luxurious.
Right, and
like,
I think other companies do that as well, like Mary Kay, Monet. They give you like a
big
car.
incentives. Yeah. So they give you like a Mercedes if you make it to the certain place. But what they don't tell you is that you actually go out and buy it, put it in your name, and then they'll pay for the monthly payments as long as you reach your quota. But if like first, let's say a month you don't reach your quota, now you're paying for it. So it's basically a chore, because it's like, and it adds even more pressure to your life, because now you have to pay for it, or like you have to make up a certain amount of money. Like usually you would think that like in a normal company, like when like my dad, he works in sales, like if he reaches his goal, he might get a bonus.
Right.
And he doesn't have to worry about losing that. It's his, you know what I mean? Like, but this is like, oh, here's your bonus, here's your like gift, but you can lose it at any point, and then you're going to end up with debt. Like that's crazy. And not to mention, I just think this is funny. It's a Mercedes, right? Like, oh, we'll give you a Mercedes. Has to be Mercedes. It has to be white. And you have to put the company logo on 3 specific locations in the car.
Oh, wow.
3
locations.
Ones?
Yes.
Oh my God. It's ridiculous. So it's like everything's smoke and mirrors with them. You know what I mean?
It's like it's a marketing tactic.
Exactly.
Even if it's meant to be like a prize.
They're still making money off it. Yeah. So it's like, it seems like this luxurious thing, but even that isn't what it seems. Yeah. So they're just, those are not what they say they are.
Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know any legitimate companies where you personally, unless you're like the owner or something, have a personal stake in the products. Like if you don't sell this, you lose it, or you lose out, and you yourself have to default that amount of money. I feel like legitimate companies, like they have like a structure, so you don't do that. I feel like MLMs are the only ones, like I said, who you definitely take a hit if you don't reach your quota for the month.
Yeah, like you might not make money in a company if you're in some certain sales positions. You might not make money if you don't sell it, but you're not going to lose money. I mean, like in turn you'll lose money because of your bills and everything, but you're not going to directly lose money because of your company, because you're
Right,
not
yeah.
buying the products. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because that's what it comes down to, is in MLMs, you are buying the products. The people you sell to are not actually important, and that's not where the money's coming from. The revenue is from the employees.
Yeah.
That's who's buying the product. And that's so fucked up. Again, going back to Starbucks, imagine if nobody came into Starbucks and the only money they made was from their employees working there, buying the drinks themselves. Does that make any sense? You know what I mean?
know.
Like, if you just think about it, realize that, like, just like in the context of the real world, like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, and so now we're gonna touch on how to tell if someone is in an MLM, because sometimes it is difficult to tell. Like I mentioned, like there's this one girl who I follow on Instagram who did start it, and at first I didn't really realize what was going on. Like I just realized that her content had changed, and then as she kept posting more and more, I'm like, oh, she's part of an MLM, yeah. So one thing to watch out for is that they only sell one brand. So to me, that's suspicious because obviously, if that was the only brand they're endorsing, then they obviously have a stake in that
Yeah, it's
product.
not like a sponsored post or something.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. And then they also have on their Instagram captions, like they'll usually do like a long, wordy caption, but at the end they'll say something like, oh, DM me for more details. So I feel like they do that because it's easier to convince someone to either be part of this company or to sell or to purchase their product if they're doing it like one-on-one rather than appealing to a whole mass of people. And then I definitely had this happen to me before, and chances are that you've had this happen to you as well, is that if an old friend or like an acquaintance maybe from like school or something will suddenly reach out to you out of the blue and just be like, oh hey girl, like I want to invite you to this like usually they have these like internet parties and something, and this is where they try to sell you your product. So you'll probably be invited to stuff like that, and you know that's how you can usually tell. One last thing too that we've already touched on before is that their social media posts are basically ads, you know, like we mentioned, like they'll put captions that are like, oh, be your own boss or do this thing, and it usually has something attached to it that is again like saying like, oh, if they're doing like hair care stuff, they'll be like, oh, my hair is so great, like it looks so luscious, buy this product.
Exactly. It's always an ad.
Exactly.
It is really interesting. Yeah, that's true.
And then there's some that I've seen recently too where there's also like I guess it would be like a disclaimer that says like, oh, if you join any of these other companies, then they have a little disclaimer at the end of their post that says like, these results are not like guaranteed.
Yeah, they have to.
And
they have
to. They say they're not guaranteed, then they say like, oh, average people only make like something a year. So I feel like at least there's that disclaimer.
Well, because I think they're being forced to now, because I don't
think that happened before. At least I haven't seen it.
Because that's another thing too. A lot of these companies have like massive lawsuits pending, like massive. Like some of them are like in the billions, the amount of lawsuits that they have pending against them. So I think they do that to cover their own ass. And a lot of sometimes it's like something that people will do also, like the distributors, is like, they make it clear that this is based on their experience and it's them saying this, not the company. Because if the company says it, especially with like essential oils, which we're going to talk about, if you're making a health claim that's not true or it's not based in science, the company can suffer from that. The company can have like serious legal implications.
Oh yeah.
But if a person says it, they can't really do anything. Like, yeah, I mean, they might be able to, but like, and honestly, the person might get in trouble, but the company doesn't care. So the companies like will make sure that the people say things like that so they save their own asses, or say it's based on their own experience, it's not typical or whatever it might be. And yeah, just the fact that they'll say that like these are not typical like results, like most people will not make this much money. It's like, it comes back to the job thing, you guys. Like, just think about it in terms of a normal job. Like, that is not... If it seems a little weird, it probably is a little weird.
Like, if you feel a little sketched out, then there's probably something wrong with that. And, like, something that I feel like a lot of people should do if you get approached by a company like this that you're unsure of is just try to do, like, some research. A quick Google search will usually turn up something, like, pretty easy, or will at least give you enough information for you to decide whether or not you do want to join a company like this.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, if you do like a quick search, you'll find lawsuits. I promise you'll find lawsuits, and just look into why they're being sued. Like, just look into these companies before. I mean, don't be a part of these companies. It's the point of this episode. Please don't do that.
Yeah, but now we want to get into what MLMs are and why they're so problematic. And we want to get into what we'd like to call MLM's greatest hits. As you'll soon see, there are MLMs for almost any single product that you can think of, from weight loss shakes to essential oils to makeup. And there's even a company that we've seen that has insurance, which is crazy to me because, I don't know, insurance is such an important
It's
thing.
so
But
weird. Yeah.
but we just wanted to mention briefly to give you an idea of like how far reaching these MLMs are and how in turn like how much damage they cause and will continue to cause, because some of these are pretty large companies.
Yeah.
And
Huge companies.
yeah, and they have a lot of employees or like consultants that are independent, so
Right.
I feel like it's more wide reaching than people might assume at first.
Exactly.
Yeah, so first we want to talk about LuLaRoe, and I feel like this is a company that most people have at least heard about.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen ads on it for like on the internet. So first of all, like LuLaRoe sells really awful clothes. Like the quality is obviously not good. And we'll put some images on our website for you guys to look at. And not only are they unfashionable, they are, like we mentioned, like really poor quality, awkward sizing, and they tend to be extremely unflattering. And I feel like, is this similar to Wish, like where you get a product and it looks like
Yeah,
this and then you
kinda.
try it on, it's like completely different?
It's kind of like that, but I
Yeah.
feel like with LuLaRoe, it doesn't even like, I don't want to say it doesn't look good on the models, but it's like, it's just like, it's an ugly product. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely like Wish in terms of like, it's not going to be the quality that
Right,
you
yeah.
that you want it to be, but it's like ugly. Like they'll have like leggings, like they're known for their leggings, and the leggings will have like donuts, or like it'll be like a crazy pattern, and it's like maybe some people want to wear that, but just like the average person would not be interested in that. And like I said, it for a lot of like even if you do like the patterns, a lot of times it fits awkward. A lot of them don't have sizes. They're like one size fits all, which we know like that doesn't really work.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just the clothes are just horrible. I think that's why I want to mention this one, because it's like they're so well known because their clothes are just so god awful, and because of that, women just can't sell these products. Like they just can't sell them. Like there's just nobody to sell them to, and like
because they've already earned the reputation for being bad.
Exactly.
Obviously,
Yeah, nobody likes it. And in addition to being ugly as hell, a lot of times people will, specifically with LuLaRoe, they'll get the products and they're like soaking wet. I've heard of this happening several times, or like several different people saying this, that they received their products, like the distributors, and it was soaking wet, and so it got moldy because it's like wet. It's so wet that like you can't even like by that point there's already like mold growing.
Right, and you obviously can't sell moldy clothing.
Yeah, and then you can't give it back. You have to just sell it, and obviously you can't sell that, so then you just can't do anything about it. It's
that's insane to me. The fact that you can't go back to the distributor and say, "Hey, these clothes are unsellable. Send me new ones." You kind of just have to be like, you have to try.
Yeah, well,
like
you bought it. Yeah, it's so sketchy, but. Yeah, we wanted to mention those first because they're just ugly. Yeah, we're definitely gonna put pictures on the website. Like they're so ugly. You'll see. All right, and the next one we wanted to talk about was Primerica. And we don't have like as much to say about this one. I just wanted to mention it because it's so hard for me to imagine that an insurance company could be an MLM. So this is an insurance company. They'll sell like life insurance, mutual funds, and annuities. I don't know anything about insurance,
right?
But it's an insurance company. It's just so weird to me that like that could be an MLM. Like it's such a basic necessity in life. Like it's not like a product. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess in reality it is a product, but you don't think of it as that. You know what I mean? It's just something you have to have.
I would think out of all of these out of this one, I would feel like this is the one that should be illegal because, like I said, like insurance is a very important thing. And that is something you need. So I would imagine that if these people are purchasing this insurance and it's not good, that they can bring lawsuits against that or bring up. I mean, I just don't know how this is possible.
There probably have been many. I mean, honestly, like I said, any MLM, like there's probably lawsuits pending.
Yeah.
But they really should be shut down because that is so sketchy. Like it just doesn't even make sense. Like I don't even understand how it works. And also like a lot of the reps that work there only make $5,000 a year, which obviously
that's not a lot of money.
Is so little. Yeah, it's crazy. Like I don't understand how like I don't know, like a lot of MLM people will say like, oh, well, it takes you like many years to get to a place where you're making a lot of money. It's like, dude, but you can't survive working a whole job where you only get $5,000 a year.
Exactly.
Like just don't do that job. Like that's it's insane. But yeah, we just want to mention that one because it's so hard to understand, like an insurance company that's MLM. And the next one we want to talk about is Young Living Essential Oils. So this one's bad for so many reasons. Like one thing to start off with is the pseudoscience. So obviously as like it's in the name, it's essential oils. That's what they
Right.
sell. Which I'll say this, like I don't have anything against the oils themselves. Like I don't
Yeah.
think they're like harmful for you as long as you're not like ingesting them. Like sometimes I'll use peppermint oil for my head, like if I
Mhm.
have a forehead.
Yeah, like
I don't know
sometimes
if it
they
really
do
works, but
work
like
for small things. Like
yeah,
we
for
don't want to
little
say
little
like,
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
very little things. Like, I mean, I do use essential oils, but I don't use it in this.
Yeah, like as like a diffuser or
Yeah.
like yeah, for a headache or little things like that.
Yeah.
They can be like beneficial and they just smell good, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just nice to have like I don't think there's anything wrong with them, but if you're going to buy essential oils, buy them from a grocery store, buy them online. Do not buy them from Young Living, do not buy them from doTERRA, which is another essential oil MLM. Don't buy from these companies because they're harmful, and especially Young Living. Young Living will claim that their essential oils help with conditions like Ebola, Parkinson's disease, and autism, to name a few, which obviously there's no science backing this up. They
Exactly.
say
Yeah.
that it'll prevent cancer or can reverse cancer. They say that with COVID now, I know that certain MLM
Oh
companies
my
or
god.
certain essential oil companies have said you can protect yourself from COVID. And like they'll do this thing where they'll say like blank blend. And it's like you blend these essential oils together. Cause there's way more than you would think. Like I didn't realize how many there are. There's like so many different types of oils. And they'll say like the immunity blend or like the like cancer blend or whatever,
Oh
and
my
it
god.
they're saying it prevents for these things, which obviously it doesn't. It's just like there's no argument about it. It's not that there's some evidence for it. It's just like it doesn't do those things.
Mhm.
And in 2014, the FDA issued a warning against the illegal marketing of their products, which, as something I mentioned earlier, they're kind of able to get around because they make it so that the people make the claim, but it's
Oh.
not the company. Because it used to be that I believe the
Well,
company would actually make these claims.
well, when I went on their website actually because I was curious about this, I did see that I think they did claim this still. So if
Really?
it's on their website, or maybe I was looking at another
They might
website,
have
but
had some
anyway.
like they might have said it, but there's some stipulation at the bottom.
Oh,
You know what I
okay,
mean?
yeah.
Like, oh, like in some cases or something allegedly. You know what I mean? Like
Which
they
is
say
so
something
dumb.
like that, but then I would imagine that like their distributors would say it like without those things because
Okay.
the company doesn't care if they're sued. You know what I
Right.
mean? And their chances are like an individual is not going to be sued for saying like pseudoscientific claims, whereas a company could be. Obviously, they were.
Right. I mean, I still feel like it should count though because they're under
Yeah,
this company, even if they're working like quote unquote independently. Like
yeah.
they're still under the company, but you know.
Exactly, but that's how the company gets around it. It's not to protect anybody except for the company,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
And it gets really dark, so this is gonna escalate really quickly. So obviously, essential oils or Young Living is they have pseudoscience, which can lead to it can actually lead to people dying if they choose essential oils over actual medical treatment,
Right.
which
Like
actually has happened before. People have died because they're like, oh, I'm not gonna get this treatment. I'm just gonna use my essential oils.
right.
Well, then you're gonna die. But more with death. So the founder was Gary Young, and he actually killed his own baby in 1982. And so what happened was that he attempted to deliver his wife's baby through like a water birth. So they were in like a whirlpool hot tub, and they were trying to do like a water birth. He obviously was not qualified to do that. He was
Right.
full of bullshit. This guy was full of bullshit, which just goes, it just like is the culture of the company. It's all bullshit built
Right,
on
like he
nothing.
obviously maybe thought himself better or
God,
more
yeah.
knowledgeable. Delivering a baby is not a simple thing. I would
No, it takes so
recommend
much
definitely
skill.
having a professional, whether that's a doctor or a doula. I don't know what that's what they're called.
Yeah, I don't know what they're
Or like
called.
yeah,
Yeah.
but basically someone who is used to what the
Who's
complications of
done
what
it
could
before
happen.
many
Yeah,
times.
who has expertise in this. Obviously, this guy he was just selling essential oils. He obviously did not have the right qualifications to do this, and obviously it ended very tragically.
So he tried to like deliver the baby in the whirlpool, and I can't even say he tried to, because what he basically did was that he held the newborn underwater for almost an hour, and lo and
Like,
behold, the baby died.
did he literally like hold it down, or did he just keep
That's
it in the
no,
water?
that's what from what I understand. No, because they said underwater. All the things I found were like he held the baby
Oh gosh.
underwater for almost an hour. And obviously the baby is probably dead within a few minutes.
Right.
If
Yeah.
even if that, because you can't hold your breath for long. When you're a newborn, you're like taking your first breath,
Hmm.
like your lungs are so tiny. Like The baby probably died really quick, now that
Yeah,
I think of it.
unfortunately.
Plenty of people have successful water births, and it can
Yeah.
be a really good thing. I've heard people really, like, enjoying the process, and, like, it's better that people say it's better than in a hospital if you do it right, with the
Right.
right people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
But
again,
you
he
don't
obviously didn't know what he was
yeah, I
doing.
just, like but I feel like it's more than he didn't know what he was doing, like, I think he intentionally killed the baby because I just
Right.
genuinely don't know what he was expecting, like, that's like shooting someone in the head and being like, "Oh my god, they died." What did you think was gonna happen? Why did you hold the baby for an hour underwater?
Right.
So, I couldn't really find that much about if he actually served time or not, because he was,
He
like,
should.
indicted, I guess the word, like, he was, like, charged. He was charged with something, but I
Mhm.
don't think he actually served time, because then he went on to try to do the whole thing again when his wife got pregnant again,
Oh god.
and she didn't let him.
Thank God.
But I'm like, "Oh my god, I would want that man nowhere near me." Imagine, like, she got pregnant from him again after he killed their baby, like, that is so sad, like, this man was crazy,
Yeah.
and so the company is just like and that's the founder, and the founder doesn't always reflect on the company, but I think in this case it does, because first of all, like, he's just full of bullshit and, like,
Right.
pseudoscience, but he was also obviously, like you said, he thought himself superior, you know what I mean? He thought he knew everything.
Right.
And the culture of Young Living is really like a cult. Like, there's a YouTuber I follow, I can't think of his name now, but I'll leave him in, like, the description, or, like, wherever you're watching, we'll leave links. And he came from a family who was like a Young Living family. Like, it's like literally a cult. It's like a religion. Like, it's
Oh
like
gosh.
their whole lifestyle. And
Yeah, like
so
we mentioned, because they do tend to enclose you into their group, and they
Exactly.
isolate you from everyone else. So obviously, like, this group of Young Living or MLMs or whatever are the only people you have. So naturally,
Yeah, you get your family involved
Yeah.
in it, and then, like, either you get your family involved or you cut them out.
yeah.
So yeah, it's basically a cult, and there's pseudoscience, and there's murder, like, from the. It's just, like, so much. So that one, it's
wild.
really bad. It's
Yeah.
really wild.
Yeah, so now we're going to talk about Herbalife, and you guys may have heard of this. I feel like these are one of those things that are kind of trendy right now.
Yeah.
So Herbalife sells dietary supplements like weight loss shakes as well as vitamins, and they're notorious for targeting immigrants as well as the Latino community, which sucks so bad because people who are new to the US may not be as familiar with the way things work here as well as, what's normal business, and
Right.
they're more susceptible to MLMs because, like I said, they do make it sound very appealing. They make it sound like, oh, you are in charge of your
You like
finances.
start your own business.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
so easy. Yeah.
Yeah, so again, for people who aren't aware that this isn't normal business, then they'll think that it's a really great idea. And they literally drain poor people to what's left of their little remaining funds because, like I said, they have people invest their own money. And there was actually even a whole documentary on Herbalife called Betting on Zero, and it basically investigates all of their sketchy business practices, and it predicts that the company will fall flat, which actually it didn't.
Yeah, the company's still around, unfortunately. It's this one really pisses me off because they target, like, the Latino community specifically.
Right.
And, like, I don't think they sought out to do it. I think it just kind of happened, but once it happened, they went in hard. Like, they started, like, advertising on, like Latin, like, channels, or, you know what I mean, like with like, I'm trying to think of television, what's it called? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
you're talking about, but
Yeah,
I don't
so,
know
like,
either.
Spanish channels, like, Spanish speaking channels, like, they went in hard on the Latino community, and it's just fucked up. It makes me so mad.
Yeah, and I think that the thing that all of these MLMs have in common and why they're so, like, harmful is the fact that they inherently prey on vulnerable people. Like,
Exactly.
they know which people that
like,
this
you're
will
new
appeal
to a country. Yeah, like,
Exactly,
of course
yeah.
you're not gonna, like, you're gonna be looking for ways to make money and everything. Like, it's scary. And then, like, somebody
Yeah.
comes over and they're like, oh, or somebody maybe in
Exactly,
the
yeah.
community already has a company. It's like, oh, well, I'll start it, and
Right.
it'll literally be the worst decision you've ever made.
Yeah, and then lastly, we do have Minate coming in at number 5, which we have mentioned briefly before. So Minate claims to have revolutionary hair care products, and they also sell shampoo, conditioner, scalp rejuvenation oil, and as well as hair rejuvenating vitamins and supplements. However, the company has had a huge amount of complaints from customers who've experienced severe hair loss as well as scalp irritation, and like many other MLMs, their products are not FDA tested. So again, just be careful with products like these because obviously the FDA is in charge of making sure that everything is safe for you, and obviously there have been different side effects for a number of people enough that they know that they've experienced severe hair loss, which is obviously not fun to deal with.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
your hair is just falling out. Like I've seen a picture where, like, because I look at a lot of anti-MLM content, and like I saw this video where like somebody showed like shedding, like or they were saying shedding, like they had a clump of hair in their
Oh
hand,
my god.
and but it was a distributor, and they're like, this is normal. It's like healthy to like lose this much hair, and it's like, dude, it's not.
No.
It's just not. Like, no, if you have a clump of hair in your hand, like that's
That's
not
not normal,
normal. That's
no.
not supposed to happen. Like, don't say it is. Like, they'll do that. They'll try to like normalize things and be like, oh well, your hair was just unhealthy before. That's not why. That's why it didn't happen. It's like,
God.
no, it's definitely your shitty products.
Yeah.
We want to mention a few that might be surprising because the ones we're going to mention now, like you've probably heard of their products, and to be honest, they all pretty much have good products. Like it maybe not all their products, but they have reliable products. But you might not know that they're MLMs, and I didn't even know honestly any of these were MLMs until I started looking into the anti-MLM community. So the four we wanted to mention were Mary Kay, Avon, Beachbody, and Cutco. So yeah, like Mary Kay to start with.
It's a huge company. Like, I feel like that's the one I've seen most of. Them and Avon are pretty popular. I've seen advertisements for them. I've seen the Mary Kay pink Cadillacs on the road.
Yes, the pink cars. Yeah, I've definitely seen those before. And like, I feel like growing up, like I've always like seen Mary Kay and Avon products, like in my mom, like with my mom or my grandma. Like I just like never thought anything of it. You know what I mean? I just
feel
thought
like
it was another company.
It was a old school makeup brand. That's always what I just assumed
exactly.
it was.
Like I didn't think it was an MLM, but it actually is an MLM. Like you have to be distributed to work there. And like Beachbody, it's funny. Like my family has all of these products. Beachbody is, I think, yes, I believe with Beachbody you can actually buy their products online, so it's not just
like through person to person.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be, because I remember my mom was doing a workout the other day. It was like a video workout, you know, like you do it with them, and it was Beachbody, and I was like, oh my god, Mom, where did you get this from? Like, why do you have this? And she was like, I bought it online a while ago. And so that like because sometimes MLMs will do that, which actually really sucks for the distributors because that's even more competition. Not only are you competing with the people you recruit and the people above you, but now with online sales too. Yeah, so she bought it from like you can buy it online. And they do have good products. Like I've heard that people really do like their workouts, and like I think they sell shakes and stuff. Like I've heard they actually have good products, but it is an MLM. They're actually very notorious as well. And Cutco sells knives. Again, my family has Cutco knives. I did not know it was an MLM because the knives are really good. Like they're really good quality. I never would have thought anything of it, but it is an MLM. Like that's how it works. So that's important to remember, that like their MLMs aren't just bad because they have shitty quality or like they have shitty products. Like sometimes they have really good products, but their tactics are the issue.
Right.
Yeah. So lastly, we want to talk about like basically the darkest side of an MLM, like the worst place it can possibly go. And the one we want to talk about is called Nexium. It's spelled Nxivm, but it's pronounced
I think they're trying
Nexium.
to be fancy.
Yeah, exactly. But it's pronounced Nexium. And just to let you know, like this is going to escalate really quickly. Like it gets really bad. So Nexium started off by offering self-help seminars for personal and professional development through its executive success programs. And their founder is a man named Keith Rainier, I believe.
Rainier Averd.
Is it Rainier?
I don't know.
We don't know. He doesn't. He's an asshole, so it doesn't matter. And he believed that you could heal individuals through techniques that were meant to change your emotional self.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's kind of those self-help thingies, like try to be better in business and stuff like that. Yeah. But it later actually came out that Nexium was basically like a cult, and we mean like an actual cult here.
Actual
cult.
And
they were actually, so Nexium was actually used to recruit for a secret society where women would be branded with a K and an R, so Keith Rainier's initials, and they were forced into sexual slavery. So in 2008, Keith and his associate, a former actress named Allison Mack, as well as several others who were high up in the company, were actually arrested for sex trafficking as well as other charges related to the cult. So obviously this is very extreme. This doesn't happen to every cult, but moral of the story here is just be careful and try to do research before joining some random company, especially one that you don't know a lot about or you've never even heard of before.
Yeah, because it seems so like innocent, like, self-help. Like, I mean, I don't believe in self-help books. I think they're usually bullshit. But it seems like a good thing. It's like, oh, they're just like helping me be a better person.
Yeah.
You would never expect this. But yeah, it was literally like all of those, like, people talk about like pedophile rings and like satanic cults, and people are kind of like, I don't know if that exists. This is
This
that.
is a
Like that
real
was
thing, yeah.
literally like a sex trafficking ring. And it was like exposed, I remember when I first heard about it, because I think the actress Allison Mack,
She
she
was
was
in
in
not Supernatural, Superman or
yeah, the
Smallville, something
Smallville,
like that,
yeah.
yeah.
And I grew up watching that, so I saw the thing that like she was involved in trafficking, and I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Like I
Yeah.
could not even wrap my mind around it. So yeah, obviously, like you said, like MLMs aren't usually that bad. We're not
Yeah,
trying to say
no.
that like all MLMs are sex
No.
trafficking rings. Like that's not what they are, but it can get to that place. It's really
Yeah.
more about like cults at that point. But yeah,
Yeah.
we just wanted to mention that one.
Yeah, but we hope you guys were able to learn a little bit more about MLMs and just, educate yourself, and hopefully you don't get pulled into an MLM because like we mentioned, they are very harmful to, your personal life, your finances, as well as a bunch of other things. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed listening, and we will be back next Monday with a brand new episode. And to make sure you guys don't miss any announcements or episodes, make sure to follow us on our Instagram at Dark Matter Pod or our Twitter at darkmatter_pod. As always, we have our sources and pictures on our website, darkmatterpod.com.
Right, and if you're listening on Spotify, be sure to follow us, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it would be a huge help if you left us a review. Subscribe and like our video on YouTube if you enjoyed watching. And if you enjoyed listening, we'd really appreciate if you spread the word by letting your family and friends know about our podcast, because, yeah, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for listening, guys.
Bye.